You may be curious about getting informed efficiently, right? And perhaps wondered how people stayed so, well, capable physically before all our modern fitness stuff. So today, we're diving into ancient fitness, survival as the ultimate workout.
Right.
Our mission really is to pull out the key ideas, the principles behind how these past civilizations approached fitness.
Exactly. And it's good to, forget the treadmills and the protein shakes just for a moment.
Yeah.
We're looking at a time when being fit was often directly tied to survival. It wasn't really a separate thing you did.
Okay.
It was just part of life woven right in.
Okay, interesting. So let's maybe start with ancient Greece. We think philosophy, democracy, but physical fitness seems like it was a really big deal too.
Oh, absolutely. Huge. Their gymnasia, they weren't just for looking good.
Right.
They were vital for training soldiers and for the Olympics, of course. You had athletes training with halters.
Halters, like weights.
Yeah, basically early hand weights. And doing combat sports, running, often in sandals, believe it or not.
In sandals, wow.
And then you have the Spartans. Their approach was pretty extreme. If you weren't fit, well, there were serious social consequences. Public shame, even exile.
That is intense. Okay, then shifting over to the Roman Empire, you always picture those legionnaires marching, right? That alone must have been a killer workout.
Oh, incredibly tough. We're talking 20-mile marches. Daily.
20 miles.
Yep, carrying something like 60 pounds. And their training was essentially prep for the battlefield.
Makes sense.
Practicing with heavier wooden swords, digging trenches, fortifications, all serious hard labor. They even swam in armor.
Swimming in armor.
Yes.
Seriously. And their diet, lots of barley and beans, that was the fuel, basically. Kind of like an early form of bulking, maybe?
So Greece had athletic ideals. Rome had military might. Clear practical uses for fitness. What about, say, ancient Egypt, building those massive pyramids?
Talk about functional fitness, right?
Yeah.
Imagine hauling those stones like 2.5 tons each.
Unbelievable.
The constant rowing, climbing, just monumental projects demanding incredible, sustained effort.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all work. Tumart shows things like wrestling, even acrobats doing handstands. So strength and flexibility were valued in recreation, too.
It's just mind-boggling, the sheer physical demands back then. Now, the source also mentions ancient India, China, Japan. It feels like fitness took on a slightly different flavor there.
Yeah, what's really interesting there is how they often blended the physical with the mental or spiritual.
Okay.
So in India, you see early forms of yoga, poses like warrior, plank, building strength, but also focus.
Right, the mind-body connection.
Exactly. Then in China, martial arts like Kung Fu weren't just for combat, but also for health.
Right.
In Japan, you've got sumo wrestling. Even their diet, that chonkonabe stew, was specifically for fueling those large physiques, deeply rooted in culture.
So fitness wasn't always just about raw capability. It could be tied into spiritual practice, cultural identity. Okay, finally, what about hunter-gatherer societies? No gyms, no organized training there, surely.
Well, their entire life was the workout, basically. A constant, high-intensity but low-impact kind of thing.
How so?
Just think. Walking maybe 10, 15 miles every single day. Just to find food, track animals, climb things. Constant, varied movement.
Right, just necessity.
And studies show their bone density was often on par with modern elite athletes. It really speaks to how effective that paleo fitness, driven purely by need, actually was.
So looking at this whole picture, the big theme seems to be that ancient fitness wasn't really about looks or trends like today. It was about, well, surviving.
Exactly. Functionality was everything. Being fit meant you could do the things you needed to do to live.
Right. So the key takeaway seems to be that intense physical activity was just integrated. Part of daily life across these ancient cultures, driven by survival, by culture.
Precisely. And maybe that leads to a final thought for you listening. Considering how physically demanding life just was for these ancient peoples, think about how bringing more natural movement, maybe inspired by that inherent grit they had, back into your own daily routine. How might that impact your well-being today? Something to consider.